The galaxy's darkest predators hunted entire civilizations to extinction. They devoured planets, erased cultures, and snuffed out stars as if they were nothing but candles. But when they reached Earth, they found something they had never encountered before. Because humans don't just fight in the light. We fight even when the lights go out. We fight when nothing remains but ashes and memory. We fight because sometimes, being the last light means burning so fiercely, even the dark itself recoils. Before we begin, if you love stories about human resilience, about survival when everything seems lost, make sure to like this video. Subscribe for more cinematic stories. Humanity is everywhere, and I'd love to see where our light still shines. Now, let me take you into the dark. The galaxy knew them only as the Eaters of Light. No name survived from their homeworld, if they even had one. They drifted across the stars like a plague, a tide of black ships devouring everything. Entire civilizations fell before them, worlds reduced to silence, skies stripped bare. First came the shadows, blocking out suns with their vast fleets. Then came the silence, as communications vanished into static. And then, the screams, quickly cut short, echoing through the void as they consumed not just life, but hope itself. The archives were full of their work, ruined cities under dead stars, frozen corpses drifting in orbit, and planets where nothing remained but bones ground into dust. For thousands of years, the galaxy whispered warnings about them. Entire starfaring species changed migration paths just to avoid their routes. Some tried to fight. None succeeded. And then, at last, their shadows fell across Earth. We should have been terrified. We should have bent the knee like so many others had. But that's not what humans do. When their first ships entered the solar system, they expected panic. They expected silence, submission, despair. Instead, they found defiance. We lit the night sky with resistance. Old satellites and orbital weapons blinked awake, streaking fire across the void. Entire navies launched every vessel they had, outdated or not. Cities shut down their power grids, plunging into blackouts not of fear, but of strategy, because if the Eaters hunted by light, then Earth would give them darkness to choke on. For weeks, battles raged in orbit. For weeks, humanity's last ships threw themselves at the void. And when the fleets fell, the fight didn't end. It only came closer. The Eaters descended to the ground. Black metal towers split through the clouds, disgorging endless swarms of predators. Beasts shaped from the dark itself, crawling things with too many limbs, eyes that burned like coals, jaws that split open wider than physics should allow. Cities burned, countrysides fell silent, and still, we fought. I remember those days like smoke burned into my lungs. I wasn't a soldier, not at first. I was a teacher, standing in front of a classroom the day the sky split. By nightfall, I was carrying rifles scavenged from the dead, guiding children through tunnels that hadn't seen use since the Cold War. We weren't fighting to win. We were fighting to last. Humanity scattered into the ruins. Cities became tombs. Forests became ambush grounds. At night, we whispered through radios that barely worked, sharing scraps of hope. "Hold on," we said. "Somewhere out there, someone else is still fighting." And that was enough. Because humans fight differently than any other species the Eaters had consumed. We don't fight for victory. We fight for each other. The Eaters didn't understand that. They understood numbers, hunger, extinction. They didn't understand love, sacrifice, or the way a human will burn themselves out just to keep one more candle alive. That's how we lasted. That's how the last colonies of light survived, hidden beneath oceans, in frozen tundras, deep inside mountain bunkers. I was part of one such colony. We called it Haven, though in truth it was nothing but a cave network wired with stolen power cells. There were maybe 400 of us. Soldiers, farmers, children, the old and broken. By then, the war had been raging for years. We didn't know how many humans were left. Maybe millions, maybe thousands, maybe only us. The world outside was ash. The stars were veiled in dust, cities hollowed into graveyards. And still we endured. I remember the night it happened, the night the Eaters finally found us. The alarms screamed first, metallic echoes bouncing off stone walls. Children cried out, mothers clutched them tight, and soldiers ran to the barricades we had built from nothing but scrap and courage. I grabbed my rifle. My hands shook, but not from fear, from rage. We had survived too long to die quietly. The tunnels lit with gunfire as their creatures poured in. Black shapes crawling on walls, tearing through steel as though it were paper. The first line fell fast, screams echoing, bodies dragged into the dark. But the second line held, and the third, and when each fell, another rose. Because that's what humans do. We were losing. We knew it. For every one of us, there were 10 of them. For every barricade, they had claws sharp enough to cut through stone. But still, we held. Not because we thought we'd live, but because maybe, just maybe, our children would. And then, when the last barricade cracked, when the Eaters surged into our final chamber, something happened they had never expected. We sang, not out of madness, not out of mockery, but because when the dark comes, humans have always lit it with song. Old war hymns, lullabies, broken voices shouting into the abyss. I remember my own voice joining, hoarse and ragged, as the Eaters hesitated, just for a second, because they had consumed thousands of species. But none of them had ever done this. None of them had ever fought with laughter, with tears, with voices raised together, even as death closed in. And that moment was enough. Because in that heartbeat, we lit our final weapon. The engineers had been working for months on it, a reactor overloaded with every scrap of power we could find. A weapon not meant to save us, but to deny the enemy the satisfaction of our end. If the Eaters wanted our light, then they would choke on it. And so, we detonated it. The explosion ripped through Haven like a second sun. The tunnels glowed white-hot, the stone liquefied, and for miles, the earth itself howled. Every creature in those tunnels burned with us. Every shadow shrieked as light tore them apart. I remember fire. I remember screams. I remember a child's hand gripping mine until the heat consumed us both. And then, silence. They say the Eaters retreated after that. For the first time in their endless conquest, they staggered, because in one act of fire, in one final blaze of defiance, humans had shown them something they had never faced. We had denied them the quiet extinction they craved. We had burned so brightly that even the dark itself recoiled. The archives call it the fall of Haven, but survivors, what few remained scattered across the world, call it something else. We call it the last light, because in that moment, humanity taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. We don't survive because we're the strongest. We don't endure because we're the smartest. We endure because when all else fails, when the air is gone and the lights are out, when the dark itself comes to devour us, we shine anyway, we burn anyway, we fight anyway. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough. If this story struck something inside you, remember to like, subscribe, and share this video so more people hear it. And tell me in the comments below, if humanity was down to its last light, what would you fight to protect? Because stories like these remind us, even in the darkest night, we were the last light.